Hey, welcome if you are new here. My name is Maria. I live in Glasgow and this podcast is all about knitting. What I'm casting on, what I'm currently knitting, what I've done and finished, things that I bought, anything yarn topic related will be discussed here. So just sit down with your whip and cup of coffee or tea and let's enjoy a wee chat about our knitting. Hi everybody, Maria from the future here. I just wanted to pop on and say that this footage is actually about a month old now. I've had some things going on in my personal life and that meant that I did not have any time to edit or knit much actually. And so I thought, you know what, this is pretty much really all that I've done recently and I might as well upload it and show you guys and then start afresh after that. But yeah, just so that the context maybe makes a bit more sense. This footage is actually a month old. I hope you enjoyed still though. So hey, how have you guys been? It's been a hot minute. And that's because a couple of weeks ago I posted my review of the C-Knit Shirataki interchangeable needle set. And I just didn't have time to film two things and cut them and upload them. So I'll try and aim to maybe do a video every other week. Yeah, I think that's going to be my goal. Just to have a goal in order to upload regularly and not let this fall on the back burner. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that one. It took actually a really long time to make because I had to film all these individual scenes for the cutaways and then I had these really long videos and I had to always find the specific moment when I'm showing the swivel cord, all the tips and so on and insert it whenever I'm talking about it. So it took quite a long time for me to cut that together, but I hope you find it useful and comprehensive. And if you're thinking about getting the needles, it might tip you to get them or not get them. So yeah, not much has happened in the last few weeks, I would say. I've continued with my running. If anybody has seen the last episode, I'm still on the 5K, Couch to 5K app journey. And actually at this point, I'm getting concerned about what I'll do once it ends. And I don't have the motivation of somebody in my ear saying, you can do it. It's only another minute left. Keep going. Yeah, I'm actually finding it very motivating and very useful. So still enjoying that. I know that a few people are also on the 5K, Couch to 5K journey. Tell me if you're still on it. If you commented a few weeks ago saying, I've started it as well, tell me if you're still at it and if you kept going. So I'd love to know. But I think otherwise, yeah, we can just get into the video. There's not much today, but as you know, on this channel and in this series, it's all about the slow knit life. And even if I don't have very much to show, I'll still film a podcast and update you guys on it because, like I said before, there's that you always see people produce, and I think sometimes you can feel a bit overwhelmed with it and like you're not doing enough and everybody is knitting 5 times quicker than you are. So I think it's realistic and good to show, you know what, it's been, what has it like been, a month or so, and this is all I finished, and that's okay. So here we go. I'll start with my finished objects. There's 2. First one is this slipover, which in the last video I was just binding it off, I think, or like literally finishing the hem or something. So I was basically done with it. So this is the Snowfield slipover, designed by Coco Amour Knitwear, and it's knitted with Drops Air in wheat and then Drops soft tweed in sand. And it's creating a really lovely speckled effect fabric, which feels very warm but isn't super heavy. So I really love the yarn combination. I keep thinking what I could make with it next time. I still have about a ball and a half left of each of them. So I'm thinking, could I get a little baby cardigan or baby jumper out of it? Just kind of make up my own design. But I'm really loving it, and I definitely want to cast on something else with this yarn combo. Maybe a sweater next time. Yeah, like I said before, the pattern is very good. It's very well written. It's really easy to follow. It has good sort of check steps in kind of after every big construction element, so that you can see if you've got the right amount of stitches on and if you've kind of done it right. So I really enjoyed that about the pattern. And I love wearing the slipover. It's so easy to put on with just a white long sleeve, and I think once it gets a little bit warmer you can easily put a t-shirt underneath it but still be warm. So yeah, I'm really loving that, and this big collar is really good under a jacket now, so I actually don't need a scarf. But yeah, and I also don't think I would have done anything differently. The only bit that's annoying me is this here. I don't know why it didn't block so well, but if I pull my arm down, this kind of rolls in a bit weirdly. I don't know if I can fix that somehow, maybe in the next wash, but I don't know. It's not too major. But yeah, I think I'll show maybe a cutaway of me in full scale so that you can see how it sits towards the hem. But yeah, really loving it. Definitely, well, I've already cast on a new slipover, so I think I'm definitely a convert. I love slipovers and how versatile they can be, and just how easy, and how sweaters sometimes are a bit too warm, and also if you knit thicker fabric like this, it sometimes is a bit too bulky when you're wearing a coat, whereas a slipover is actually kind of the perfect in between for that. So I'm quite enjoying it. The next thing that I finished, I don't even think I started that when I filmed the last podcast, but I was part of the test knit for this one, so I think I'll insert the ad logo here because the pattern was gifted as part of the test knit. But it is my Gullane tee. I don't know how to pronounce it. There you go. I'll insert a nicer cutaway. But it's a t-shirt that was again designed by Coco Amour Knitwear. I think she's slowly becoming my sort of like new favorite knitwear designer. Loads of the stuff that she's got I really find very interesting, and I think I'd look good in it. She's got something else in test knit currently that I already know I'm definitely going to make. It's called the Portobello sweater. So nice stripes again, and it has a button band in the front, kind of just before it ends, just before the bust. It looks very chic. I think that's going to be a perfect summer knit just to throw on in the evenings when it gets colder, or throw over your shoulder if it's a bit breezy that day. Yeah, it looks very tempting, definitely. But this is the Gullane tee, like I said, done as part of the test knit. And I've knitted this in Drops Belle, which is a pure linen yarn from Drops. And Drops Belle is really inexpensive. So I think this whole t-shirt cost me, I think, £13. And I do think the Drops Belle was 20% off or something. It wasn't in a sale, but it was very affordable to make. And it has a really beautiful detail on the shoulders here. I don't know if you can see that really well. I hope the camera will focus, but yeah, the shoulder design here I think is really beautiful. It's very well constructed, and I knitted a size large. I'm usually the end of the medium bust with the sizing, so I usually go for the medium unless the medium has a little bit too little positive ease. I think the medium in this size would have given me 4 centimeters of positive ease, which I know is not going to be enough. Like, I won't like it if it's fitting a bit too tightly to my body. So I opted to knit the large, and this fits exactly like I would want it. It has just enough positive ease to look a little bit oversized, but not fully baggy or anything. Again, I'll show either photos or a cutaway clip of me wearing it. And it has a really beautiful design detail for the stripes. If it would focus. There we go. Yeah, the stripes are done in a really nice way with these purl and knit rows. And then the hem is folded. So after halfway of knitting the hem, you do a purl row, which is quite common, and then you fold it. And the way I've done it is I bound off and sewn on in the back at the same time, which looks very neat and saves you having to bind off. So yeah, it was a pleasure to knit it in terms of instructions and the construction. However, I had to use 3mm needles to hit gauge, and a large piece like that on 3mm needles I found really challenging. It took me such a long time to do, and I literally sent her my notes and yardages and everything on the eve of the deadline for the test knit. So it really did take me a long time, even though my yarn came within a week. Yeah, but that was just because for my gauge I had to use 3mm needles. In the pattern it's a 3.5mm needle gauge. Obviously that depends on the individual knitter, but it was still very nice to knit. Like I said, the shoulder detail I think is really beautiful, and that was something that really attracted me to the design. And then the folded hems that I like as well. I think the only thing I'd do differently, I don't know if I'll actually go to the length of unraveling it. I don't think I will. But the only thing I'd do differently next time, don't know if this will pick up really nicely, but there is no decreases in the sleeve. I think because the sleeve is quite short. In my size I had to knit, I think, for around 11 centimeters. But for some reason when I did the folded hem, it created this bell shape, or this taper towards the end here where the hem is, which I'm not too keen on. I'm not the biggest fan of how that looks, and I know a few test knitters have found the same. So I think the next time I would add some decreases there just to shape the sleeve a little bit more, but it's definitely not like a deal breaker for me. I still love wearing this t-shirt, and I think it still looks great. Even considering maybe putting in a little elastic thread to see if that brings in the sleeve a little bit more towards the hem. I don't know, I'll see. Maybe I'll try, because that's a fairly quick way and you can easily undo it. So I might try that. But other than that, really loving it. And I think it's also going to be quite a versatile piece, because I think it'll look good with just jeans and then tucked in maybe, but you could also definitely wear it with some nicer trousers for the office. And so I think that's what I really enjoy about the design as well, how versatile it is styling wise. And it kind of halfway makes me want to film a styling reel, even though I've got I'm not the biggest style queen out there. But I think, yeah, it'd just be nice to show how versatile this piece can be. And yeah, so I'm really happy with that. I think if I didn't have to use 3mm needles for that, I'd definitely knit a different variation of it. But I know. 3mm on a baby knit is sort of my limit. But 3mm on a garment for me, no, I just don't like that. It's just too much work. It just takes too long a time, and you feel like you're knitting on something forever and ever and ever and ever. And also something that I don't really enjoy that much is knitting with linen. I love wearing it. I love how it falls, but knitting with it, the little strands are sometimes you just poke your needle through them and then you've knitted sort of 3/4 of all the strands, and then one little one you didn't, and there's this weird loop hanging around. not my favorite to knit with. It also has a weird feel about it, but I love wearing it, so just gotta get over myself there. But yeah, that's all my finished objects for this month. So it's really one finished one that I've done within that time, and this one was basically finished last time I saw you. So. Hi, so it's several hours later actually. I got interrupted when the baby needed to go down for a nap, and then I got my head stuck into grading, but then I thought, you know what, it's quiet in the house, so I should really try and film this. Okay, so I had finished all my finished objects for this episode, and now I'm going on to my whips. I've got one whip at the moment, and it's another slipover because I'm really in love with slipovers at the minute. You can't see very much of it yet. It is the Stockholm Slipover with the round neck from PetiteKnit, and I'm knitting this in Drops Flora and one strand of Drops Kidsilk. And this yarn is actually coming from a frogged project. That's why I decided to kind of cast it on a bit spontaneously, because I had the yarn in my stash and I really would like to have another slipover, or maybe another couple of slipovers actually. And so yeah, I just wanted something nice, cute, easy to knit after the 3mm t-shirt. And this is knitted on 4.5mm needles. And actually something weird happened when I did my gauge swatch. I was 2 stitches out, but instead of going down a needle size, I thought I really love the fabric that the 4.5mm create. It's I don't know how well this comes across. We're focusing. It's a bit of an open weave, so it's a little bit more. The fabric is a little bit thinner, I think, and it's going to be nicer for spring and summer. And also just love the fact that it's on 4.5mm needles and I'll go by a bit quicker. So I didn't really want to go down a needle size. So I did all the calculations to knit in another size, but with my gauge difference, I'd end up at a size medium, which is what I'm knitting. What I intend to wear actually. And when I started making it, I was like, this is never the measurements that I'll need for a medium. And I re-measured the gauge of the piece that I had started, and I actually then hit the gauge. So I don't know what went wrong with my first gauge swatch, but I then had to unravel everything and start again with all the instructions for size medium. But it's okay, I didn't get very far anyways. So yeah, really loving the design so far. Very easy and straightforward, like all the PetiteKnit patterns. Everything's very well described and easy to follow, so no issues in that regard. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to having another slipover in my wardrobe. I've also already got my eye on the next slipover that I want to knit. I saw somebody, I forgot her name, I need to insert the name down here. But she's also on YouTube doing knitting podcasts, and I saw her talk about her, I think it was Best Number 2 Spring Edition from My Favorite Things Knitwear, and she's knitted that in a knitting for olive. I can't remember which one, but she said she only needed 2 skeins for it. So I thought, ooh, that's maybe a good way of buying a few knitting for olive skeins and seeing how that yarn is without having to spend the big money on it or commit to a large project. So I think that might be the next slipover that I want to cast on, especially because that one also has a V-neck. I think it was on her, it was quite a long low cut V-neck, and it looked sort of in the mid oversized range, not too baggy. So I think that would really fit well into my wardrobe. So I'm already looking forward to that, and maybe testing out some knitting for olive yarn, which I haven't yet, and I'd be very excited to try. But yeah, this is my only whip so far. It's going well, it's going by quickly, and as you guys know, I like having just one whip or maximum 2 whips, because otherwise I'd never know what to work on, and I feel like I'm not finishing anything, and I feel like it would just take ages to finish one thing. So that's why this one whip, and I think once that's started, I'll continue on my Maman sweater. So I did cast on that one a while back, and it's been a bit slow going because I thought I would stop knitting on it and finish the grading and then finish sort of the second draft of the pattern so that I could knit my second sample from the version 2 of the pattern, just so that I would get to work from it and see how the instructions read, if I'm forgetting anything, if they're clear, if I can cut anything back. I think that would really help me feel a bit more confident about everything before I sent it off to test knitters. And it took me a while to grade everything because it's my first time doing it, and there's just a lot of steps to it. I think I've probably overdone it. If I'm seeing the spreadsheets that other knitwear designers use compared to my massive spreadsheet, I feel like I've overdone it, but I'd rather be a bit extra and do more calculations and checks than I'd need to. Just because it's my first time, and I'm still on the fence of whether I've done it right or not, because I was saying this in a recent little video on Instagram in my stories that I'm looking for more information on grading because there isn't very much out there. I'm doing a course on Craftsy right now, which, to be fair, I can't really recommend. It's quite slow going, and I don't really feel it teaches me all that much that I didn't know before from blog posts or sort of that source of information. So yeah, I'll finish it and hopefully it'll give me a bit more insight into what I actually need to know. But so far it's slow going, and everything that they've said so far is just you deduct that logically rather than that's something that you need to know that only somebody will tell you with experience. So yeah, not really that sure. So everything that I've done grading wise so far is just me trying to logically go through it. So I thought I'd grade the size that I want to knit again, which is a medium. I'd grade that so that I have all the sizes and grade it with the changes that I had in mind, and then put it all into the pattern just for this one size, edit the pattern, and then just knit my second sample from it, just to feel a bit more reassured that I'm actually on the right track and that I feel like it can go to a text editor and then to testers. My biggest fear with it is that it'll go to testers and there'll be major issues with the grading, and it'll be a waste of time for them, and I'll have to stop the test knit midway and send it to a grader and spend the money on the grader and then have to call for testers again, ask them again. Yeah, that would be my biggest fear, that it was a waste of time for them and they kind of gone halfway or whatever. But yeah, we'll see. Hopefully knitting it again from the new graded charts, and then also with the new laid out pattern, hopefully that will give me confidence that everything's in order, because then I've done it once from the sizes or from the measurements and instructions that I'm creating for all the different sizes. So we'll see. Not easy. Okay, that went off on a tangent. So on to my acquisitions. We are whizzing through this because there isn't very much this time around again, because we are all about the slow knitting. For acquisitions, I really only have this one book that I would like to share with you. It's called The Ultimate All-Around Stitch Dictionary by Wendy Bernard, and it's what it says in the title. It's a dictionary and an accumulation of different stitches. She's covering a big variety of categories. I'll just read to you the chapters that she's separated everything into. So the first chapter is knits and purls, then ribs, twisted or textured, slipped and fancy. The next chapter is cables, then lace, mosaics and colorwork, and then hems and edgings. And I kind of was thinking about a few other design ideas that I have. And I thought a stitch Bible like this would be really good to have and to get inspiration from. I've got something similar like this from, I would guess maybe it's the 70s or 80s. It was a book that someone in my family had and they just gave to me because they thought I'd be interested. And it's a really good, interesting book. So I thought something maybe updated, a bit bigger, would be really cool to have. And I do really find it very inspiring. And there's so many different techniques and things that I absolutely had no idea about. And I've already gotten loads of inspiration from it. I was even thinking, should I try and cast on a little summer t-shirt with one of the designs. There's something that I really specifically like, but I don't know if I'll have the time. Yeah, because with the amount of time that it takes me to make a pattern now, like design something, I just feel like I'll not be ready. It'll not be ready for summer. It'll be ready probably for autumn. And there's the baby version of the Amour sweater that I want to do before. So I think, yeah, I'll not bother with the summer knit design this summer. I'd rather focus on the other ones that I have in mind, which will be for autumn, winter wear. So, but yeah, this is a very interesting book. It has, like I said, a ton of different ideas of things that you could do. I think this is really something for people who would like to start designing their own knitwear, who maybe want a little bit of inspiration. I don't know if it will be all that useful if you are just a frequent knitter who uses patterns, because I think for patterns all the different designs and so on will always be instructed either in charts, or it'll be a very common stitch that you use, like brioche or fisherman's rib, where you can find instructions online quite easily. So I think this is more for people who would like to design their own stuff, and I think that's very useful, a very useful tool. So yeah, that's all for this week. Sort of 2-ish finished objects, one whip plus like the Amour sweater sort of half cast on, and then just the acquisition, the stitch dictionary. So yeah, short one again, but like I said, this isn't about quantity, it's about quality, and it's about enjoying your knitting and enjoying your knitting journey. So let me know what you guys are knitting. I love reading the comments when everybody tells me what they're knitting, and if I have the time, I'll go on Ravelry and check out what it is. Or if you'd leave your Instagram handle down in the comments, then I could check out what you're doing on Instagram. And I think a few people also found me on Instagram and are seeing what I'm making there. So I love the interaction. I love chatting with you guys in the comments. So let me know what you're working on this week. If your kind of knitting pace is maybe the same as mine, or if you're much quicker and you're like, Maria, you're really slow. I don't know. But in the end, it doesn't really matter, does it? Each to their own, each however much time they have. So yeah. So probably we'll see you in about a month's time. Hope you're keeping well until then. Let me know what you're knitting in the comments. If you want to, go follow me on Instagram. I'm a lot more active there. And otherwise, I shall see you again in maybe 4 weeks. Bye.